Now, if you've ever looked up finance videos on YouTube, then you have undoubtedly come across Dave Ramsey. If for some reason you haven't come across him, here's a quick little breakdown. So he wrote a book called The Total Money Makeover, where he gave people 7 steps to get themselves out of debt. Those steps are to save $1,000, then pay off all your debt except your house, set up a 3 to 6 month savings fund, then invest 15% of your income for retirement, save for your children's college, pay off your home early, and then finally build wealth and then give back to your community. Now, the majority of people actually love him for his first 3 steps. I mean, they travel across the country toward his studio where he hosts his radio show just to do their debt-free scream.
3, 2, 1. We're debt free!
And I just now noticed that I'm negatively talking about Dave Ramsey, or I'm sounding like I'm talking or belittling him. I actually love Dave Ramsey, and I think these steps can specifically help people with poor spending habits or people with terrible consumer debt. Here's the thing though, this channel is about poverty, and on this channel we define poverty as lacking enough money to pay for what you would consider to be a comfortable living. I touched on this before in a different video, but there's a major difference between cash flow and affordability. Just because you have a negative net worth doesn't mean you're living in poverty. So to give you an example, and yes, this is going to be an extreme one just to prove a point, a surgeon who makes $300,000 a year might be in $500,000 debt. He might have a negative net worth of $500,000. But I wouldn't consider that poor, because a poor person is somebody who has a major cash flow issue to where they have $0 coming in and they might owe $0, but they are now considered living in poverty because they don't have the sufficient cash flow to pay for the things to achieve that comfortable standard of living that I've referenced earlier. But someone who lives in poverty may genuinely have no debt, but I would still consider them poor, because if you have $0 coming in, but you have $500 that you need to buy of food, water, shelter, and clothing, then you're lacking sufficient funds, like I said before, to live that comfortable standard of living. Now, the difference between these two concepts is actually what I wanted to talk about in today's video. Will following Dave Ramsey's plan get you out of poverty? Now, if you guys like the concept of this video, or if you like this channel, go ahead and consider subscribing and liking the video. I'm trying to actually hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of November, and I think we can get there together. But that being said, let's jump right into the video. I feel like the best way to actually break down if following Dave Ramsey's plan will get you out of poverty is to only go through the first 3 steps of his total money makeover plan. So let's look at the first one and see if it's possible by somebody living in poverty. And that's actually to save $1,000. Can somebody who is poor save $1,000? Shockingly enough, I do believe that saving $1,000, even for somebody living in poverty, is achievable. Now, obviously, there are plenty of factors and things working against somebody in poverty to save $1,000, but that doesn't make it impossible. Whether you are rich or you're poor, saving $1,000 should be an achievable goal. That being said, I do think achieving this goal is going to work in 2 different ways depending on your financial standing. If you absolutely can't save $1, and this is assuming that you budget perfectly and spend your money perfectly, if you can't save $1 after paying your bills, then the goal of saving $1,000 needs to be your motivator and your thought process on how you're going to make more money. Now, that may mean you work overtime at your current job or you pick up a second job. But if that is your position where you can't save even $1, then that is the only decision that you can make on an individual level. Now, I'm not naive. I know that's not possible for everybody, and that's damn near impossible for a lot of people. I'm just speaking on the only options you have right now on things you can control on an individual level. So because of that thought process and that reasoning, I'm going to hesitantly say that baby step number 1 is possible, although it's not possible for everybody living in poverty. So let's now tackle baby step number 2, which is to pay off all of your debt. You would assume, and I would assume too, that if I'm over here saying that you should be able to save $1,000, that at the same time you should be able to pay off all of your debt. And I'll tell you up front, I don't think that's possible for people living in poverty. And here's why. People living in poverty face a different type of debt than the people who are in the middle class America. So let me explain. If you're in the middle class, your debt probably looks like student loans at 4 to 5%, a car loan, or possibly credit card loans going all the way up to 30% interest, which is bad. But compared to people living in poverty, they typically have loans out like payday loans. And if you don't know this, this should be a crime. The average interest rate of a payday loan is 398%. I'll say that again, 398%. So that means if you borrow $100 and you sit on that money for 1 year, you will owe them $400, 4x the amount of money you originally borrowed after 1 year. 1 year. And if it's not a payday loan debt, the other type of debt that most people face when they're in poverty is that they're actually just behind on rent or bills. And usually when you have to catch up with those payments, it's one lump sum. If you owe $100 to AT&T, the next month, you're going to owe them $200. And they usually don't work out payment plans like they would for a credit card. Because of the reasoning that people in different demographics face different types of debt, I'm going to say that baby step number 2 is so overwhelmingly impossible for people living in poverty, unlike saving $1,000, that I'm not going to pass baby step number 2. So right now, Dave Ramsey's baby steps are 1 out of 2. Let's see if he can go 2 for 3 and I'll pass him. So baby step number 3 is to save up 3 to 6 months of expenses. And right off the back, I'll tell you right now, that is most likely not possible for the overwhelming amount of people in poverty. Now, the reason I say this is you have so many things holding you back because you probably have a worse car. You probably are living in an area that's overcharging you for things that are going to break down. And you're going to run into so many obstacles and headaches that you're not going to be able to save up enough money of 3 to 6 months of expenses. And by definition, if you're in poverty, that means you're already living below that comfortable standard of living that we spoke on before. Your money shouldn't even be going to savings. It should be going to making sure you have food, water, and shelter and clothing, because that is really the standard of living that you're going to set as a foundation to then build out of poverty. So catch up to that first before saving 3 to 6 months of expenses. So since I'm saying Dave Ramsey went 1 for 3, I'm going to say Dave Ramsey's baby steps is not a great way to get out of poverty. Now, once again, I love Dave Ramsey, and I think these baby steps are some of the best things you can do to get out of debt. Completely different topic than getting out of poverty. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. If you disagree with me, rip me apart in the comments. I'll make sure I'll reply. We might be able to have a back and forth where we can finally come to agreement and see eye to eye or something. Once again, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by November, so if you want to help me get there, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that like button for the video. And remember, it may be hard now, but it doesn't always have to be. I'll see you in the next one.